a lot of the champions that he picks, they're really strong cleanup champions, like Ezreal. So Ezreal and Draven, they're both champions that once there's, you know, kind of, you have a hectic fight. One, they're really strong in the laning phase, but once the fight gets kind of hectic, they're really strong at picking up multiple kills. Tristana as well. You can pick up those quadra kills. You pick up a number of kills to throw things off. So it's always a lot of fun to check them out.
Oh yeah, definitely. We could see the bans going out right out of the get-go. Immediately, if Vladimir and Alistar being banned, nobody wants to see those champions being played. No one wants to have to deal with them landing on the enemy team. Of course, everybody wants to pick them, but they don't want to play against them, so leaving them open is never a good idea. So Vladimir and Alistar banned out. Orianna banned, that's a target ban at Salsi. Salsi, back in the Leaguepedia Invitational, had to play against CLGB in one of the rounds. I believe it was the semifinals or quarterfinals. I don't know. I was casting it and I still don't remember what it was. But Link on CLGB played a game of Orianna in his patented style of picking up all these GP10 items, and unfortunately didn't work out for CLGB. The next game, Salsi picked up Orianna and said, no, this is how you build Orianna. Stacked some Doran's rings, wound up getting a death cap, and decimated Link in the mid lane. So Curse does not want to have to deal with the Salsi Orianna this game, especially after she's gotten a little bit of a buff.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising because Orianna, we have seen her seen a lot of play recently, and gold pretends are just like generally awesome items, and we see them a lot currently, particularly with some mid champions. But Orianna is a champion that needs to get off to a good start and needs to, you know, pick up kills and control fights. And you don't do that with Gold Pretends. Philosopher's Stone doesn't win you fights. It gets you to your late game farm, and she already farms pretty well, so it does kind of put you behind as opposed to those Dorans. So that should be pretty interesting. Karthus for the first pick. St. Vicious, I'm wondering if we'll ever see some St. Vicious mid action again, playing for Absolute Legends before they became Curse a while back, but probably not.
No, I do believe we did see St. Vicious playing in the mid lane in a previous match for the IPL 5 qualifiers. It wasn't against a too well-known team, so they did have a little bit of fun. We saw St. Vicious in the mid lane that game. But I don't think we're ever going to see him live up to his hype from Absolute Legends in tournament play here. We're picking up the Karthus pick. Global Ultimate, of course, has gotten a little bit of a nerf. It doesn't necessarily mean it's not still strong or give them that threat for having the Global Ultimate come down from Karthus. And Nijaki has been known to play a Karthus that is very, very powerful.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, Nijaki's just all around one of the strongest laners in the game. He's really strong at farming, and then, good at those long-range champions. I love, like, the Kog'Maw and the Vygar is always, the patented Nijaki kind of characters, but they're kind of moving a lot more into position. Karthus is nerfed this patch, so it is the live server, but even so, Karthus is still really strong. And I was talking with AJ earlier. I don't really think that the nerfs will affect Karthus that much, because early in the game, you're not using your ultimate that consistently. It's just the threat of the ultimate. So with the longer cooldown, you lose a little bit of that threat, but you don't really lose much damage output.
And the one thing is, Karthus, like you said, a very, very strong laning champion, is always still going to have that presence, but I don't know about this. Baron, I am so excited that Afromu has picked up Draven and Nat has picked up Taric. That is going to be an aggressive bottom lane. That is going to be a lot of fun. Draven, of course, has the mechanic where he's going to be throwing axes, picking them up, dealing extra damage. Every time he's spinning one of those axes and he lands a hit on a champion, his passive is going to be taking some damage over time on top of this. Taric will be giving him an armor buff. It could also be an armor debuff on enemy champions in that lane, and then has a hard crowd control spell and that stun. That is going to be a lane I am super excited to see.
I mean, Draven is just one of the most devastating champions in lane. We had actually, when we were, AJ and I were watching the Taiwan qualifiers, one of the teams there, TT Dragons, they had run Draven with an AoE team comp. And the real nice thing with Draven is that level 1 and level 2, you basically beat every single person in lane. Like, there's no one who can match up against you. Unfortunately, Jace not being picked. That would have been awesome to see him picked. But Draven, so he's really strong in lane, but then if you have a team that can clear out fights, very quickly you can win those fights. You pick up those late kills, the stragglers. But the issue with Draven is if you go against like a heavy AoE team with lots of disruption, usually champions like Corki, though Ezreal really works with the Karthus. If Karthus can get in on Draven, then all of a sudden Draven's DPS drops dramatically because he's interrupted a little bit. He can't run around, pick up his axes. He has to play a little bit more defensively because he doesn't have that upfront burst that champions like Graves, Ezreal, Corki do.
Yeah, he really does have this mechanic that really wants you to kind of sustain yourself in the fight and be out of the action while being in it, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah,
So
no,
Aphromoo has been shown a little bit of mastery to pick up those axes and continue the constant DPS, doing a very, very good work of balancing his W. This is steroid, gives him bonus move speed and attack speed. It'll be refreshing every time he catches one of those axes. So it's not necessarily one of those things you could ignore in big team fights, because you're going to get such a bonus not only in damage, but also the attack speed and the movement speed to help reposition yourself and take down champions quicker in team fights. So it really is this fine balance you have to pick up with Draven that makes him such a hard champion to master. But speaking of hard champions, Saucy has picked Malphite for his team, while Unstoppable with the jungler is going to be picking up Nocturne for this match.
Well, the nice thing with Malphite is, again, we were talking, it goes back to the Draven, and Draven is like the crux of their, or it's the centerpiece of their team. And Malphite, he has the initiation and the AoE to start that snowball, to start the team really quickly to be winning. But he prevents Curse from picking up Malphite, and Malphite is one of the hardest counters in the game to Draven, because Draven, he has nice mobility with his movement speed, but he doesn't have any quick escapes, so that he's very vulnerable to that Malphite engage, and then the attack speed slows. So that's a serious issue. So as a result, TSM Evo, they pick it up. It's not a big concern. And now Curse, instead of getting the Supreme Malphite pick, which would have been fantastic to go along with the Karthus, they have Olaf, which is also a very strong pick. Olaf with his ultimate, he can get into the backline, which is what they want. They need someone that can initiate onto Draven. Since Nocturne was already down, they pick up the Olaf. So we'll see how that kind of works out. The Cho pick is kind of unusual to me, but but just mainly because we haven't seen Cho in so long. But he has some upfront CC. The silence will be very nice. It could be very disruptive, and then he's just a tanky champ that can control that top lane.
And the balance between this is going to be great. Of course, Cho'Gath's probably going to be going in that top lane. We're going to see a jungle Olaf. That is just my guess. I don't think we've seen jungle Cho'Gath for much longer than we actually haven't seen Cho'Gath to begin with. So we are going to have an Olaf that can dive down on that Draven and will still disrupt him from doing what he wants to do. On top of all this, Cho'Gath does have the AoE stun, or technically the AoE knockup, and an AoE silence, which offers a decent amount of crowd control against the rest of the core team from TSM Evo. So if we are going to see Cho'Gath being in that top lane, actually, right now we're floating Cho'Gath in the jungle here, but
Jace is happening this game. There's the pick. So we're going to see Jace. That's going to be really exciting. I think that means that Malphite is going to be going mid and Jace top, though it could go either way. So kind of an interesting pick. I'm really excited to see him.
Not only this, I'm not only excited to see a Wings of Death playing Jace in the top lane, I'm excited to see Saucy playing Malphite in the mid lane. We've seen Malphite just on the upswing ever since MLG Anaheim pretty much, and now being picked up in the mid lane. I think we've seen maybe once or twice in the past couple of weeks an AP mid Malphite, and he's devastating. I think you actually talked about Malphite a little bit on the one of the IPL updates, so why don't you give us a little more information on AP mid Malphite?
Well, it's something that it started off when Malphite was first being played over a year ago. It's like almost 2 years ago. He was considered a AP mid, and that's how you played him. You played him as an anti-carry also, but that used to be when you have those AD carries go mid, and Malphite would go mid, and he'd be able to shut down almost anyone. Like, he could beat almost anyone in lane, and it was just brutal going against him, because his shield, it had a much faster regen rate, which means it was almost always up, and he could just constantly spam those Qs on you. Recently, we've seen people like Alex Itch playing Malphite. We've seen a couple other Europeans playing Malphite in the mid, but I haven't really seen any of the NAs pick him up. So really an interesting situation here. But Karthus, one of his big vulnerabilities is to hard initiation, particularly in the mid lane. He goes down very quickly. So Malphite has that opportunity to just ult him. That's one of the nice things when you have Karthus mid and you have Malphite top. Malphite can come into the mid lane, get a hard gank, and pick up a quick kill. But in the mid lane, it's going to be twice as devastating. And because Karthus doesn't really have the best harass, it's going to be difficult for him to shut down Malphite's farm. So Malphite's going to be able to farm. It should be pretty cool. For those of you guys tuning in, once again, I'm James Rauman. AJ's off on the side. Tom is going to be casting with me here. Optimus Tom, I'm really excited. Studio was supposed to be here, but unfortunately we're having some difficulty finding him. So I think part of the thing with the Malphite mid, I don't know if that was like something that they originally intended. I'm assuming they intended Malphite to be top, but I'm going to assume that Cho works decently against Malphite in the top lane, but they're actually going to be jungling Cho. So Olaf is going to be in that top lane, which is interesting. Olaf, is a very strong top laner. It definitely makes a little bit more sense against a range like Jace, but it's been a while since I've seen a jungle Cho.
It's been a long time since seen jungle Cho'Gath. We did talk briefly about how much crowd control Cho'Gath is going to have on him as a person. It works out for champions like Nautilus. However, Cho'Gath does not necessarily have a dredge line or a target ultimate that can follow people and knock them up in a line to kind of disable them that way. Cho'Gath's going to have a little bit more of a skill shot oriented crowd control set. So St. Vicious is going to be able to land those, especially in the bottom lane if he gets some powerful lane ganks without the enemy knowing he's in those bushes. Cho'Gath to be a very powerful ganker, but we're all going to have to see how he can test against, say, Nocturne, who's been known to clear the jungle at a very decent speed and be very, very aggressive. We saw Nocturne just the last series really controlling the flow of the game from the jungle, and against the jungle Cho'Gath, who not a lot of people are going to know how he functions. I don't think he necessarily has the fastest clear time in the world, despite his AoE spell damage. So we're going to see, is Nocturne going to be able to abuse this, or what they're going to do with it?
Yeah, Nocturne should have a speed, but Cho is actually a pretty fast jungler. I think that's something that surprises people. He's actually running movement speed and attack speed. So, you know, he does have pretty decent clearing speed. It should be pretty fun to see. I think Jace is the big question in everyone's mind, though. And I'm really curious, if it wasn't for the Jace pick and the Malphite switch, what Curse would have ended up doing. Because I think what they thought was that, I think they were going to send Cho top against Malphite to have that harass against Malphite. And then all of a sudden Jace was there and they're like, all right, let's swap it up maybe. But, Jace, I mean, he's a ranged melee top. That's the coolest combo ever. Like, how can that not be the greatest thing ever, to have a melee top lane that also has ranged harass and ranged farming?
Safe lane, Ezreal and Soraka, I think he's going to be going for CS rather than harass.
Well, it's also the Mystic Shot versus the stationary Draven. It's like, oh, yeah, skill shot, I know where you're going. Let me just throw it right over there.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point, too. Draven is going to have to catch his axes, so... I don't know, though. We do have a little bit of aggression here from TSM Evo. They are going to check this area over here, potentially just place a ward down by the Wraiths to know where exactly St. Vicious is going to be on his jungle pattern. And actually, they're not even placing the ward down. They're just trying to make him scared of something. Very interestingly enough, St. Vicious is going to be starting over here by the Wraiths and potentially a red buff first instead of the blue buff Baron.
Yeah, and again, Cho'Gath, he's not a very buff-dependent jungler, so he doesn't really need that early blue buff. It would help speed up his jungle a little bit, but he clears the jungle pretty quickly without the blue buff. So, you know, we'll have to see. He does get the nice regen from his passive, which is another big thing. He jungles at very high health and mana, so he's a very safe jungler as well. We'll kind of have to see how they're going to go, because Unstoppable, he's starting over at his Wraiths, it seems, as well, unless he's going to transition over to the blue. But Curse, you know, like you said, they do have that ward, so they are pretty safe down there.
Yeah, and once again, St. Vicious, of course, he's on Curse. Curse likes being extremely aggressive early on. Could we potentially see an early Cho'Gath gang? I don't know. He is going to be using a decent amount of mana to power through that the first early stage of his jungle. Eventually, he is going to be able to gain some spells. Oh, actually, looks like a Nijaki jumping the gun there is going to lure the Wraiths out of the way, so St. Vicious is going to be a little upset about that one. But the Wraith's not resetting, so they're still A-OK. Unstoppable did rotate over to Wolves, though, so he is going to be starting at his own blue buff, getting a leash from Salsy's Malphite there, throwing his little Q over the wall. A very nice leash. Ooh, do we see Aphromoo and Tarek potentially going towards Golems, but they decide to back off at this one, just kind of spotting rather than trying to do any sort of jungle invade there. And St. Vicious is going to be going for red buff first, and we have the junglers pattern started off, both of them killing the buffs relatively around the same time, and we're going to have to see where it goes from here, Baron.
Well, Draven and Tarek are just so aggressive at level 1, 2, and 3 that you know, they wanted to see if they were going to, if Cop and Elements were going to go for those early golems to try and get a little bit of a level advantage, deny some of that harass, so that maybe they could pick someone off, get a quick kill or something. But nothing's going to happen, so they will back off. And yeah, everyone just kind of starting standard items. Tarek starting off with the boots. That gives him a little mobility, so he can get in on Cop. He gets the nice harass, the stun, and all of a sudden, Aphromoo is just crushing this lane with his Draven harass.
Wow, that was so much damage coming out from like level 1 even. Aphromoo and not even level 2 yet. That is level 1. Level 2, of course, with the steroid now, Aphromoo is going to continue this harass. Not only is he dealing a lot of damage, he's completely zoning Ezreal and Soraka out of any early experience and out of any early CS. Currently level 2, they are still level 1 right here, Baron. So that aggressive lane really working out. Natwin even continuing to stun Ezreal and just continue to play zone defense right here. Tarek is not letting them get anywhere near the experience field.
Yeah, it's going to be a serious issue for them, but as the lane progresses, they should be okay. Ezreal is generally pretty safe in lane, and Soraka, once she gets a couple of levels, can, you know, out-sustain him. And so Aphromoo getting kind of low from some of this harass, you know, he will have to kind of worry about that versus the Soraka as the lane progresses. And I'll just make sure to keep an eye on how Jace is leveling right now, just starting off 3 levels of each, or 1 level of each. You know, we'll give him some nice rest. And actually, Olaf, because Olaf has to throw his axes to farm against this ranged harass, is kind of pushing into Jace. So that'll allow Wings to get some nice ranged harass onto him and start to zone him out of that lane.
Yeah, not to mention he is actually getting 2 levels of undertow, 1 level of that reckless swing, so he's going to keep farming away from that distance and being very safe. Westrice opting to recall right here now that his lane is pushed. We see Westrice doing this a lot, and it's almost like a spider sense or something, because Unstoppable had been waiting in that bush to go for a gank, but Westrice, he's not in lane at all anymore.
Yeah, it's any time from 3 to 4 minutes you can expect that first gank in that top lane. So, really need to get out of there. You can't, I mean, there's really no reason for him to stick around and farm when he's that far pushed up. So when he gets back, hopefully the lane will push back to him for a little bit. But actually, Jace, Wings has done a really nice job of just freezing this lane right in front of the tower. You see him pull the wave down right below that tower so that it actually resets on his minions, doesn't hit the tower. So he will be able to zone Olaf for a while.
Yeah, indeed. So Jason, a very, very nice position on top. We see Olaf actually picking up a Fairy Charm right here to try to continue with this mana sustain. Olaf is going to come around from mid lane, though, and St. Vicious is in the jungle. Cho'Gath coming in here. Does not actually land a stun or anything. Malphite is taking a lot of damage. Saucy gets ignited. St. Vicious going in very close to the tower. Olaf's ignite will be the one to pick up the first blood right there. Our triple lane gank there on the mid lane. Unstoppable came in to try to help, but that's still 2 champions compared to 3. And Curse being very aggressive. Westrace on the back coming in, and that's basically it, Baron.
Yeah, and you saw how much damage Cho has at early levels with that red buff. So it's kind of surprising. I'm a little bit surprised he just threw off his Rupture as opposed to holding it for after he got the slow. But, they got the kills. So the first blood is definitely huge. It went down on Olaf, like you said. So getting that gold per 10 is just awesome in a lane that he was primarily going to struggle in.
And now he has a Philosopher's Stone, health regeneration on top of mana regeneration, on top of gold generation. Yep. That is everything Olaf could hope for against Jace in this matchup right now, except for maybe just an instant kill button. But he's not going to have that one probably until later. Oh my god,
those instant kill buttons, those are always the best.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very afraid of the instant kill button, especially when they remake Evelynn. I hear she's going to have an instant kill button.
Oh, she's always had an instant kill button if she gets back and it gets farmed enough. And that's like the big issue with Evelynn. But we'll have to see. Wings pushing into Westrace a little bit, so he's going to be able to farm here. He will be able to hold the lane himself there for a little bit, so he's going to be pretty safe for quite some time, which is nice. And it also opens up opportunities for ganks. And currently, Wings of Death, he doesn't have any vision, so if Cho was able to get a gank, then it could be pretty successful.
But Cho'Gath is going to opt to head back towards the bottom lane. Nothing really here in his jungle, so you could potentially see, like I was talking about, one of those lane ganks coming in. Aphromoo and Nat Window being super aggressive. They really just have the entire bot lane in command right now, so Cho'Gath is going to stop off at his golems as they respawn. We have to see what he does right there. Meanwhile, Jace is opting to back off and recall. He has a decent amount of change, and the Banks are going to have to see what that man builds in the top lane, Baron.
Yeah, and I think they realize they need to sit back, but actually St. Vicious coming into this bottom lane, Nat Nguyen with the stun, so Aphromoo is going to be running out of there, is able to clear out of there pretty easily. So they have a very safe lane. Wings of Death, there's the knockback, so Westrice, he can't get that engaged just because of how safe of a laner Jace is. That'll be interesting to watch. But Draven and Taric bottom, they have a really strong kill lane, but because Ezreal is going to generally be really safe in lane, it's not really worth it for them to allow Ezreal to push out. So instead of doing that, they just constantly push him into the tower, try and get a farm advantage as a result, and see where they can go from there.
Yeah, and as long as they have, they actually don't have any wards in the river right now, so that's kind of dangerous right here. But Nat and Aphromoo kind of have this little synergy where as soon as they sense that something's wrong, both of them are going to back off. We did see Nat actually moved up when they noticed Cho'Gath is in the lane to get the Dazzle off, so therefore he was going to keep Draven very, very safe. So they kind of just have the synergy there. As soon as someone senses danger, the support kind of dives in to try to make sure that Aphromoo will get out of there A-okay. So Draven's going to be all right in that lane. So even though Cho'Gath wanted to come around for a gang, we saw it just completely fizzled by the synergy they have down there.
Yeah, in the meanwhile, Salse is able to grab that blue buff. He's starting off with the Dorans, so that'll give him some, nice lane harass. Cho is coming up top, and Wings of Death, he didn't have any ward coverage, but Olaf kind of making a step towards him, so he just wants to get back out of there. He is currently maxing his E first, so getting the levels in that, it gives him the, harass that he needs, but also, wait, is E his
gate?
His gate? No, sorry, he's maxing his Q. I was looking at someone else. So, or no, that's...
no, he is
no, I was looking at it. So he is maxing his gate. So the movement speed allows him to get out of ganks really quickly. That's actually pretty interesting.
Not to mention this, but it is going to make his other skill shot a little more powerful. I don't know if necessarily the gate makes the skill shot stronger as it passes through it, but it will be increasing it by 40% right now. So he is going to use that for safely farming and harassing Olaf, in addition to, like you said, being able to move around and escape from potential ganks.
Well, it's also, it works as like a Shirelli is for your team, basically, because it gives you that team support, which is just so powerful. I'm not sure how it levels up, how much movement speed you get or anything, but because they have the strong initiation with Malphite and with Nocturne, if they see an opportunity later in the game, they can just rush them down very quickly with that gate. So that'll be kind of interesting to watch.
Ooh, we'll look in the mid lane over here. Not just actually kind of waiting in the wings to ward up and protect his mid lane here. Interestingly enough, Nijaki has gone for a Kage's lucky pick to put the gold for 10 generation on top of the farm advantage he has over Salsi right now. Salsi's doing a pretty good job, though, keeping up pace. 63 farm to 74 farm. It's not like Karthus is leaps and bounds ahead of him in this lane, but Karthus with the GP10, in addition to the farm he's getting, this is going to be a very, very scary Nijaki late game.
Yeah, and it's pretty common to start building gold pretends on Karthus, and a lot of times you want to rush a Rod of Ages, particularly like right now where you're going against this team that's going to try and burst you down really quickly. So I'm a little bit surprised he isn't going straight into that build, but even so, gold pretends are always nice, and you're just looking to farm for the most part on Karthus. In the meantime, we have the Wall of Pain going off on Salse, so they're chasing after him. The Rupture from St. Vicious, he gets the silence, just barely missing, and actually flashing on top of him, throws off the Rupture, almost picking up the kill, but we do have the Nijaki ultimate coming any second now, just taking a safe step back. We'll be able to grab that kill on Salse.
That was him taking his sweet time with that kill.
Yeah.
He pretty much just like, you know what, you're going to die anyway. I'm going to make sure I'm safe. I'm going to make sure Cho'Gath gets away from this and no one else comes in. And then I'm going to pop the ultimate. So kind of just a little bit of a flaunting it right there. But Salty pretty much he is dead, just kind of running back and forth behind his tower saying, where's it coming? When's it coming? But a very, very nice game from Cho'Gath there. We saw him hitting one of the skill shots, barely missing the silence, but he did land the feast. And it doesn't really matter what level Cho'Gath is. True damage is true damage. And like you said, with the Karthus ultimate, enough to really knock down the Salty in the mid lane.
Yeah, and Cho, I mean, Cho's jungling speed so far has been fantastic. He's a full level ahead of Nocturne, considering the fact that he's had those 2 assists. So, he's keeping up jungling speed. He's actually ahead of Nocturne as far as minions are concerned, and then his ganks have been really working out for him. So, St. Vicious unlocking the secrets of the jungle Cho'Gath.
It's very troubling, too, because it's not like Nocturne has really been a big presence in any other lane. He's just farming slower than Cho'Gath, who's actually been ganking a lot more. Ooh, actually, we had a little bit of aggression down on the bottom lane here. Soraka's going to silence Tarek, though, so nothing more is going to come of that. We do have a Shatter popped and a heal, and in addition to a Dazzle, but that safe Soraka keeping her ranged AD carry pretty much protected as they're actually starting to push out Draven and Tarek just a little bit in the bot lane.
Yeah, and so far in that top lane, Jace 89 CS, Olaf 63. So, he's definitely been doing his job. Anyone farmed is going to be fantastic. And Cho actually walking up as well. And they might actually tower dive this. Cho could easily tank the turret once Olaf decides to push up. Oh, but he did walk past the minion, or the ward.
Yeah, and actually Jace is doing a really good job of keeping himself safe, using his skills not only to just harass in the bush and see if anybody is there, but actually ward off ganks by that. It's just kind of like, oh, well, if I'm going to randomly fire this every now and then, it kind of gives the illusion that he does have wards. And Cho'Gath did actually walk by the ward in the middle of the river there. So really nice attention to detail right there. Double wards actually over by this dragon. One is a pink and one is a regular ward. Don't know if that was intentional or not. The pink ward is actually placed recently, so it's probably just to check for vision. Now knowing that Curse does not have any vision there, TSM Evo picking up the first dragon into the game and putting themselves a little back into the gold lead here, but Curse is at a pretty much almost a 2,000 gold advantage because of that first blood.
Yeah, Nocturne walking down, dropping the pink ward will be pretty safe there. And yeah, it's kind of surprising to see them at so much of a gold advantage, considering that most of the lanes are at an advantage for TSM Evo, but a lot of it's actually coming in that mid lane where Salse, not only did he go down twice, but he's also significantly behind Karthus. And a lot of it is just being out of lane. It gives Karthus an opportunity to farm, but we'll see how that continues. Malphite doesn't really need a lot of farm, but you see he's actually going double Dorans and then into that Abyssal Scepter. So it would be nice for him to finish that Abyssal quickly and then be able to transition into a tankier build.
And the thing is, the Abyssal Scepter will just, like you said, give him more survivability in the lane, let him go down there and farm up a little bit more against Karthus' constant harass. Of course, Karthus laying down those Qs right there, it's going to be dealing more damage if he just hits Malphite, and if Malphite is going to be going up trying to take CS, he's going to be the one that is standing in the middle of enemy creep, so of course it's going to be dealing double the damage. So Nijaki's going to have really good positioning on Malphite to harass him in the mid lane. That's what we're seeing right now. So once he finishes that Abyssal Scepter, it's really going to shut down a little bit of damage from Karthus, especially because he is, like you said, not going for that Rod of Ages right out of the get-go. He has gotten a couple of the items now, so it's a little bit slower than normal, but he does have the Kage's lucky pick as his first item.
Yeah, and he's going to be fine because they recognize they're kind of holding off right now. They're just farming. The game's going to last a little bit longer. TSM Evo doesn't have a team that you would expect to just, win the game in the first 20 minutes, so they will be fine. Wings of Death. Wow! look at all that burst damage just hopping right onto Westrice, gets the quick knockback, and St. Vicious is here as well, so he's baiting him in. Westrice is getting pretty low, but there's the silence, and St. Vicious, along with that ultimate from Karthus, very quickly they can pick up that kill against Jace.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about. I was thought we were going to use in the bottom lane there, but using it very effectively in the top lane, shutting down Jace for that kill. Jace, of course, has, like you said before, continuously harassing Westrice, getting ahead in CS. Curse identifies this, shuts down the hero of Piltover in that top lane over there, and now trying to generate any more advantage that they can.
Yeah, but in the meantime, Salse is set up in the bot lane, and Aphromoo is pushing furiously. He wants to get under there quickly so they can pick up the kill. There's not going to be any help. St. Vicious is walking up the lane. He's trying to get up there as fast as he can, but Salse should get this initiation. Oh, there it is, the Malphite ult. The quick burst. Elements goes down almost immediately. Quick kill. They can back off, pressure this tower. Though, actually, Aphromoo is still chasing after Cobb there. He has to flash out of the rupture. St. Vicious almost taking him down underneath that turret.
It was almost like Elements didn't exist on the map anymore. He just instantly evaporated after the Malphite ultimate went down. So real great job there from TSM Evo. Curse did a good job of identifying it, seeing how fast the Aphromoo was trying to push down that wave to get to the tower. They knew something was up. They knew that Malphite was missing from mid lane. St. Vicious, unfortunately, not able to get there in time. Had he been there a second or two early, it would have been a completely different fight, Baron. But TSM Evo picking up a kill to put themselves on the board. Now 3-1 to Curse.
Yeah, and Wings of Death getting some really excellent harass up top on Olaf. And one interesting thing, leveling up that Warp Gate, it's not just the Warp Gate, but it's also the knockback. And the knockback, it's actually a percentage health damage ability. So, you know, that's partially why he's been so effective with harassing down Olaf. He's just jumping right on top of him, knocking him back before Olaf can really exchange much damage. And just that huge knockback, it's a massive chunk of Olaf's health. And then you have to consider it's Olaf, Karthus, you know, Cho. There's all these champions that are going to be somewhat tanky at least. So, you know, Cho and Olaf in particular. So it's going to be a really nice ability later on.
Wow, level 5, it's chunking for 20% of their health. Olaf and Cho'Gath are going to be in for a world of pain when they get into the later stage. People thought Poppy's Q was annoying. Jace's E is going to be devastating to this team late game.
Yeah, and in the meantime, Nocturne's setting up in this top lane, so they may go for a tower dive here.
Ooh, Westrice is going to be very, very careful. He does have the ultimate, though, so he can break out of any fear of crowd control. There we go. Ultimate goes down from Nocturne. He actually pops the ultimate, but there's just way too much damage. Red buff doing enough for the slow before the ultimate goes down.
Yeah, really nice job, and the lane's been working out for them so effectively, though Westrice has done a really nice job of keeping himself in this game. He has the double gold per 10. He's building pretty tanky. And then, I mean, that double gold per 10 is a really common build that we've seen on Olaf a number of times, building into the Shrelias and into the Randuins. So, I mean, it's going to work out for him fine. It's just that Jace so far has been pretty effective.
Yeah, actually, my attention was diverted to the bottom lane. I was looking down there, and Taric and Draven were standing next to the enemy tower with barely any creeps in sight, just literally standing next to the tower and wailing away on it. So they do not want this lane to go on any further. They really want to take it down. Pings going down from Curse all over the place. They want to try to do something over here to try to help Ezreal keep this lane alive. He is down in farm the Draven, so they don't necessarily want to lose it right out of the get-go. But here comes Aphromoo and Nat, going to knock down that tower, and potentially, there we go, winning the lane for now.
Yeah, and that's one of the nice things with Draven is how quickly you can take down turrets, but they've been harassing it for quite some time now, and Aphromoo is winning the farming minigame. He's just having a blast with Draven, 160 CS so far in this game. Yeah, I mean, that's just going to be really nasty once they get into team fights. I mean, having that much farm on anyone is just always terrifying.
And especially when on the flip side for Curse, it's going to be on Karthus with 168 CS, a kill and 2 assists. Oof, he's getting very, very beefy. You're going to take a quick look at the gold tab. 6,500 gold, now 6,600 gold. You thought Draven was having fun down there in the bot lane? Karthus has 1,000 gold on the AD carry.
Yeah, and Karthus is definitely one of those champions that just, I mean, you farm and you win the game. And that's why he's fun, is you can just sit back and relax. You don't have to really put that much effort into it. You just kind of sit mid and farm and you win the game. That's why Reginald likes playing Karthus. And that's what, you know, Scar has been saying recently, is that he's just naturally OP. All you need to do is you farm and then it's over.
Wow, top lane, I'm actually looking at this build on Jace. You want to know his item build? Trinity Force.
Yeah.
That's it. He has a Trinity Force and is doing so much damage to Olaf. We saw a little skirmish up here. Jace decided to go in and initiate it with his range, switched to melee form, knocked him back, and Olaf lost half of his health in that engagement. So,
yeah, it's a really nice combo that he's been using in that lane. It's pretty interesting. I mean, the Trinity Force works very well, but Saint, Curse, all walking right into the Malphite ultimate, and Nijaki just obliterated. St. Vicious is the only one left. He actually gets the flash out, so Elements and Saint are going to be okay. They're going to be able to back out of there, but that was a dragon, a quick kill for TSM Evo. Evo, getting that advantage. And actually, West Rice chasing down Wings of Death in that top lane. So despite, you know, all these praises we've been singing for Jace, he's able to run in and get that kill. I'm going to assume he's using his ultimate to prevent the knockback. Yeah, just running right on top of him, and Olaf just has so much damage.
Yeah, Olaf, if he is able to dive down on Jason, get the initiation he wants, Jason's going to have a hard time just really peeling him off. Like you said, activating the ultimate so the crowd control will not really affect him. It is going to be still doing a decent amount of damage to him. Unfortunately, for Jace, just wasn't enough right there. As Olaf is still the true damage-wielding Viking that he wants to be, has a lot of damage potential. And even though Jace is going to be getting him lower, dealing 20% of his maximum HP and damage, that just means Olaf's going to attack that much faster. So Jace is going to have to be careful. If Olaf's already on top of him, and he has the ultimate on, I don't know if you want to be getting him any lower in that regards until he's actually below like half health so you can finish him off, because that was really something that really turned the tide of that fight.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, you know, how that interaction kind of continues as it's going on. I mean, I'm kind of interested. I'm curious how he continues building, because the Trinity Force, it's just naturally strong, and I'm sure I actually didn't see the champ spotlight, but I'm going to assume just, of course, that Freak built the Trinity Force on Jace. I mean, it works very well with him. He has that spam ability, all those combos, and then, you know, just getting you naturally tanky. It's a nice tanky DPS item. One thing that I've only played him once, but I kind of liked on him was Ionian Spark, because you're playing in the top lane and you want to win that lane against any matchup you have. Well, Ionian Spark also gives you pushing potential, so you can kind of split push. You can instant clear waves. Your W, it gives you 3 auto attacks at max speed, so it instantly procs. And it's a nice efficient item. They reduced the cost of Ionian Spark by 200 this patch, and then also buff the damage a little bit, not that significant, but even so, it's a pretty cost-efficient item. It gives you some health so you can be a little bit tankier. But in the meantime, Jace trying to chase down West Rice up top, and Wings of Death ulting into him. Nat Nguyen not going to really have much help, but he tries to get that aura onto his team, but West Rice with the Ghost is able to get out of there.
It's going to be very dangerous. It's not done yet.
Oh,
Those
wow.
pulse shots are actually doing a lot of damage, and there he goes with the flash, finishing him off. Wings of Death will get the kill there on West Chase. He did blow a lot of their abilities, and a couple summoners in the chase, too. It took 3 people to take Olaf down still, so it was a very, very nice thing there for Olaf. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get it. It looked like he was all right, but no, and they actually are going to take the tower on top of that kill.
I mean, Jace just chased down a ghosted Olaf. That just goes to show how, you know, much mobility he has to be able to clear that much speed. Oh, but Salse with the knockup onto Nijaki. St. Vicious missing the rupture. I think he was trying to zone Aframu actually for a second, and it worked perfectly. So Nijaki able to get out of there, will survive for a second. In the meantime, we do have a turret going down. Not really sure where, but St. Vicious, actually picking up the kill onto Draven, and along with that ultimate from Karthus, is going to get some nice harass onto Salse as well.
We had the bottom lane turret actually going down in the meantime, but both top turrets are going to go. St. Vicious and Salty not done going at it. There's an ignite down onto St. Vicious. He used that feast on Aframu, so now actually Malphite going to pick up a kill. Nijaki decides to come back into the fray though. Salty trying to duck and weave, but he is going to fall. Defile, doesn't matter if you run left, right, up, or down. Covers everywhere around Nijaki, so another kill going to Curse in that engagement.
Yeah, the Clash of the Titans, and Nijaki just barely getting out of there. Curse Cobb actually chasing after Unstoppable. There is the wall from Nijaki. Very quickly, he's able to pick up that kill, and Nijaki is still safe. But in the meantime, Cobb jumping onto Tarek is able to grab that kill, and then West Rice as well, jumping onto Wings of Death, chasing him down through that speed up, will grab that. And they're actually transitioning right onto this Baron. They do have a lot of damage, but they are pretty low. But with Soraka, they should be okay. They can clear this pretty easily.
That was a very interesting series of fights. It kind of moved the flow from top lane to middle to bottom, back to middle, and now over to the Baron buff area. I think everybody on both teams had some sort of say in those fights. Ooh, Aframu going in here, maybe going to try to push him off. Curse will secure the Baron kill. Now Aframu with the wall up paid, just left to die right there. As yet another kill goes to Ezreal. Ezreal even got Baron. Ezreal's on fire right now, I think.
Oh, yeah, and I mean, to shut down Aframu is like, that's serious business there. So, Karsh just playing a really nice game so far, and that, I mean, it was always a concern for TSM Evo as the game progressed how they would do, but they should be okay outside of fights, and that's what we've seen so far. Is outside of fights they are able to get these advantages. They're able to win these small fights. I'm curious what'll happen once we see like a full head-on engage from TSM Evo though. If the burst that they have for Karthus will be enough to win them the fight, or if the follow-up from Curse is just going to be too much for them, considering that they are itemizing against this armor physical team with St. Vicious grabbing the Frozen Heart is going to be very strong, and then Olaf is really tanky as well.
Interestingly enough, we see Saucy finishing his Frozen Heart before his Abyssal Scepter out of that mid lane. So TSM Evo's kind of concerned about this Olaf and this Ezreal getting out of hand. That would tend to believe me, or lead me to believe right now. Not only is he going to be building extra armor, we'll add extra damage for Malphite, which is also going to be slowing down their attack speeds ever so slightly. So building up against the physical damage when Karthus and Cho'Gath are causing a lot of trouble right now, kind of perplexing to me, but I can kind of still think they're going for the team fight mechanic. Like you said, they've been caught out of position and they've died. They've been kind of ganked and died. That's basically where all the fights have been in this game so far. They haven't really had a big team fight, but now with Curse, with Baron, we're not really going to be able to see that team fight coming out from TSM Evo until, you know, a couple minutes from now when Baron buff expires. I think the Baron buffs are really going to just negate any sort of builds that they're going for right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a serious threat. The fact that yeah, they don't really have a lot of poke, but the regen and whatnot, it still allows Curse to disengage if they like. Like, if there's a fight that's not working their way from TSM Evo, having all that regen is going to be huge. They are pressuring this dragon, so they're going to be able to pick up that dragon pretty easily. TSM Evo pushing mid a little bit, but they will be able to back out of it. They have enough movement speed that despite that Shurelius, they should be able to get out okay, and yes, they do. So that movement speed from Jace is just huge as an engage and disengage for his team.
Yeah, it's really making them play the position war with Curse. Curse wants to go in. They want to be able to slow up Olaf's axe, but if Jace can land, like you said, that mini Shurelius for his entire team, they're going to continuously have positioning advantage. This is actually letting Nat Nguyen hasn't actually been able to transition into his first real big item for his support. Still stuck on the wards, the boots too, and the GP10s of his build, but they are constantly being able to like disengage and engage properly because of Wings of Death. So even though Nat Nguyen not being able to get that item like Curse has right now for the real engagement and disengagement, it is still proving to be TSM Evo's flow of the game right now. They have the like you said, the ability when they want to start a team fight, when they want to run away from it. And what this is going to do is allow them to outlast that Cursed Baron buff, let them farm up a little bit, even though they're pushed back into their own side of the map. They still have buffs, they still have a jungle, and they still have lanes to farm up. And this is going to be what they need to survive the Baron buff, have Curse come to them, and then they can actually decide if they're going to go in or what they're going to sack in response to this.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how they're going to kind of respond, but they have, you know, great movement speed on their team. They need to get some vision, but Elements has the oracles, so far Curse is just in complete control there. Curse, they have a pretty short range team, so it could be pretty difficult for them to push. Like, if they were to push, then they're probably going to stall out. But one thing that TSM Evo is going to struggle with is they don't really have a good designated wave clearer, someone that can just constantly defend against those pushes. So as a result, St. Vicious might as well just walk up and, you know, if they push, they could just tank the tower for a second, clear the waves very easily, and continue to force them. Aphromoo actually getting caught out, the Shurelius, and there's the silence into the rupture. He does go down very quickly, and this opens up Curse to the bottom turret.
Yeah, a little uncharacteristic there of Aphromoo. He wanted to get a little bit more farm. He wanted to push her off the tower. Unfortunately, like you said, Curse, complete map dominance right now with the Oracle's Elixir clearing out wards. Even though the Baron buff has expired from them, Aphromoo was not safe in a 1v5. So now they're going to pressure this turret. Jace is going to put his little wall up there, but Karthus, he's like, wait, I have a wall too, so if you guys engage, mine's going to go down on top of you. So they actually back off of that turret there, giving away the bottom turret, and now, you know, Curse, like once again, pushing TSM Evo back into their base, back onto their own side of the map, and they actually, you know, even though TSM Evo, like we said, has the movement, they're not really going to be able to dictate running away or engaging in a fight if the fight is literally in their own base.
Yeah, and we're seeing that Curse is able to just push right up on this turret because there's not a whole lot that TSM Evo can do about it. They don't have the wave clearing. So Curse is just able to constantly apply this pressure. Nijaki is getting kind of low, so that's a serious issue for them. And Curse, in the meantime, there it is, the TSM Evo Salsa initiation with the Malphite. Nocturne getting into the back line, and they do have some cleanup ability. Wings of Death flashing over the wall there. In the meantime, Westrice very close to going down, but they are able to pick up a couple of these kills. So Curse very quickly is able to win this fight, and the rest of them are just stragglers. They're going to be taken down.
Everybody's extremely low right here. Wings of Death tries to come in, but oh my gosh, St. Vicious has so much HP. Cop has not been touched in this fight. Elements is the only one left on them with damage on him. They took down Nijaki, but Nijaki kind of died in the middle of the team fight. The ultimate did so much damage. Westrice did such a great job just getting back to the back of enemy lines, really separating the rest of the team from the team fight, would not let any of the damage go through, and we just saw how low everybody got between the AoE damage from Salsi, Ezreal continuing to pick away at the characters that were basically divided between an Olaf and the rest of their team. So really great. Even though TSM Evo seemed to have the advantage, kind of catching Curse as they wanted to go back, Curse just too powerful at this point in time, able to turn the fight completely around and into their favor. And if they had if it wasn't clear they had an advantage already, they definitely have one right now. Clean that an inhibitor, and what a gold lead they have right now, Baron.
Yeah, very easily they were able to clean up that fight, and took a look real quick at West Rice just manning up right in the middle of their team, and 13K gold lead, almost. Or actually 12K. It's going to be really difficult for TSM Evo, particularly since they don't have the nice mix of damage that they would like to. But they do have a really nice late game team with all that physical. Physical tends to scale pretty well, late game, clearly. So they should be okay. But actually, St. Vicious getting caught out of position a little bit. Wings of Death in pursuit as well, and then Curse turning it around on them hard.
Oh my gosh, St. Vicious has so much HP, you can't engage on him. Nocturne is going to fall immediately. Saucy tries to go back in there, but he's just going to be taken down by St. Vicious again. Actually, Ezreal picking up the kill on that one. Karthus in the meantime chasing after Jace. Jace not able to knock the entire team back, unfortunately, so he's not going to do good in a 1v3 or 4 situation there. So Curse taking down this mid tower. He's going to take down the inhibitor. The only one left for TSM Evo is the bottom lane, and unfortunately, even though it's Aphromoo and Nat Nguyen, I don't think they can take on an entire team by themselves. Curse could potentially just go for the win right here.
Yeah, they will be able to push pretty easily. Aphromoo dropping extremely quickly as Cop takes him down. Actually, West Rice jumping in for the kill, and then the rest of the Nexus turrets will go down. So Curse able to pick up this first game against TSM Evo. The Jace experiment, I'm sure it's not an experiment. I'm sure that Wings of Death has probably been playing a lot recently, but I don't know, it didn't really work out that well. So it started off, it was great. I'd like to see, how much of it was Jace. Like if we were able to sub in someone else versus the team, like it's just something that we're going to need to see a little bit more experience with, because it worked very well in the laning phase. I mean, Jace was fantastic versus Olaf. He was able to put on that pressure early in the game, and Wings of Death was just crushing that top lane. But they weren't able to transition the wins in the top and bot lane into a win for the team. And I don't know, a lot of it is probably down to the team comp, and just the fact that St. Vicious was a monster in the jungle as Cho'Gath, and having Karthus for the AoE, I don't know, it's really tough to say.
No, it was definitely tough to say. Jace, he, like you said, was a beast in the laning phase. Unfortunately, towards the end of the game, wasn't as powerful as some other characters named Jace that come to my mind right here. But we're gonna have to see how TSM Evo is going to adjust to this one. I don't know if we're going to see the Jace again. It could potentially be there on the back burner, but once again, Wings of Death, a man of many recent champions, could potentially bust out a Darius or something else to his name there. Gonna have to see how TSM Evo is going to respond to what they've seen from Curse and what they think about this jungle Cho'Gath. And looking at him 3-1-7, St. Vicious was very, very large presence in the team, and that pun intended, because Cho'Gath had so much HP. You saw when he got caught out of position, instead of having TSM Evo able to kill him and cause some sort of advantage, he just basically stood there and let his team start a team fight when they decided to catch up to him.
Yeah, I mean, St. Vicious starting off, helping on the first blood, helping out on, all those early kills. And it was kind of nice to have that the CC in the fights and be able to, quick burst people down. It really worked out well for them. And then, I don't know, it was a back and forth thing, but everyone, playing at the top of their game for Curse. West Rice, even though he fell behind early to Jace, with his ultimate was able to chase him down and still had enough damage to pick up those kills and did get those gold per 10s and was able to farm pretty effectively. And even though Aphromoo and Nat Nguyen, they were able to take control of bot lane, Ezreal and Soraka, they were still really safe in that lane as well. So everyone from Curse pulling themselves into that mid-game very effectively, not allowing TSM Evo to get really that strong of a foothold where they were just going to snowball it all.
Yeah, indeed. So like I said, we're going to have to see, is TSM Evo going to be able to adjust this? Could we see a Draven pick? Like you said, it did really great in the laning phase. Unfortunately, the rest of the lanes and the rest of the game did not pan out for Aphromoo in that one. So, are we going to see something else being bust out? I mean, I know Aphromoo loves to play his Sivir, and I would absolutely love to see some Sivir.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. We'll be back in a second, guys. We're going to commercial. Game 1 going down for Curse. Curse versus TSM Evo. We'll be back for Game 2 in a second. Thanks, Optimus Tom, for joining me. Studio was going to cast, unfortunately, had some issues, or I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Game 2,
on fire.
Right, yeah. Game 2 coming up in a second, right after these commercial breaks.